1955, a Saturday morning in Dayton, Ohio, a man drives a tomato stake into the backyard dirt. His wife is pressing seeds into the row he just turned. 9 years of marriage, no assigned positions, no map. They simply move around each other without instruction, without friction, without needing to name it. Divorce rates looked low in 1950, but tracking that generation over their lifetimes shows 1 in 3 eventually split. 7 unspoken agreements held those marriages together. None were romantic. All of them worked. Every single one has disappeared. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. Number 7. You kept it inside the house. Private business stayed private. You did not discuss your marriage outside the marriage. Not with your mother, not with your neighbor, not with anyone. A woman stands at the back fence on a Tuesday afternoon, hanging sheets on the clothesline, wooden clothespins from a canvas bag. Her Sears Kenmore wringer washer did the work that morning. The neighbor leans over the fence and asks how things are going. She says, just fine. And that is the end of it. This was not suppression. This was protocol. The marriage had a perimeter, and you did not invite people inside it. When a couple had words on a Saturday night, by Monday morning at the diner counter, it did not exist. At the factory floor, it did not exist. At the PTA meeting, it did not exist. Nobody knew. Nobody was supposed to know. The woman at the next table in the lunchroom did not know. The man in the next pew at church did not know. The couple smiled and passed the offering plate, and that was the truth as far as anyone else was concerned. Today, the average person shares relationship problems with 3 to 5 people outside the marriage. Therapy apps on the phone, group chats with friends, posts on social media about what he said at dinner last night. The marriage has no walls anymore. Everybody is standing inside it with an opinion. Privacy was not silence. It was loyalty. You did not hand the neighbors ammunition against the person you chose. The fence around the yard was also the fence around the marriage. Both were built by the same hands, but loyalty was not only about what you kept hidden, it was about what you showed, every single day. And that started at the mirror. Number 6. You never stopped trying to look right for each other. Both of them made a small, quiet effort every day to be presentable, not for the outside world, for each other. She touched up her lipstick before he came through the door. Revlon Fire and Ice, 49 cents at the drugstore counter. A dab of evening in Paris perfume behind each ear. Bourgeois sold it in those cobalt blue bottles at the dime store for $0.25. On a regular Tuesday, for no occasion at all. He shaved again before supper, even when he had already shaved that morning. A splash of aqua velva on the jaw. A clean undershirt pulled from the drawer. Brill cream at a dime a tube. Old Spice in the white ceramic bottle, 65 cents. The daily effort cost pennies. The message it carried cost nothing at all. A 1955 housekeeping guide advised women to freshen up before their husbands arrived home. Take 15 minutes, it said. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, be fresh-looking when he walks in. People laugh at that now. But the principle underneath it went both ways. He was doing the exact same thing at the sink. Both of them were trying, every single day. It was not vanity. It was a telegram that required no words. I still see you. You are still worth the trouble. The comb through the hair before sitting down to supper was a language the whole country spoke. And when that language stopped being spoken, something important went quiet in American homes. Not all at once, slowly. The way a porch light burns out and nobody replaces the bulb. But the effort to look right for each other was not the biggest daily promise they kept. There was something that happened every evening that held the entire structure in place, and it happened at a table with 4 chairs and a pot roast in the center. Number 5. You sat down at that table every single night. Supper was at the same time in the same seats every evening. It was not a suggestion. It was not up for discussion. 5:45. The table set, Corelle plates, jelly jar glasses, a casserole dish in the center, or a meatloaf on a platter, or a pot roast that had been in the oven since 2 o'clock. Campbell's cream of mushroom soup poured over pork chops. The smell of onions cooked soft in bacon grease drifting through every room in the house. The father at the head, the mother nearest the stove, the children in their assigned chairs. The transistor radio on the counter turned low to the evening news. A stick of butter softening on a saucer. A basket of white bread sliced from the loaf she bought that morning at the A&P. Salt and pepper shakers shaped like little roosters that her mother gave her the day she moved in. 60 years ago, a family dinner could last well over an hour. Today, the average American family dinner lasts about 12 minutes. A survey found that baby boomers were far more likely to have grown up eating with their families than younger generations. Only 38% of Generation Z adults say their family ate together regularly when they were young. Over the past 3 decades, family time at the dinner table has declined by more than 30%. The table was not where you discussed your feelings. It was where you proved every evening that you still belonged to the same unit. Nobody asked if everyone felt like being there. Everyone was there. That was the whole point. The table was not furniture. It was a contract renewed every evening at 5:45. 3 agreements in, and notice what they have in common. Not one requires you to talk about your feelings. Not one demands a breakthrough or a difficult conversation. They require showing up, closing the door, setting the table, pulling a clean shirt from the drawer. These were not emotional strategies. They were structural ones. The marriage was not maintained by understanding. It was maintained by repetition. A house is not held together by inspiration. It is held together by the nails driven in on the first day and never pulled out. But the structure needed something underneath it, something practical that kept the whole operation moving forward without a daily argument. And in every house on every block, it worked the same way. Number 4. You divided the work, and you did not resent the division. Each person had a role. The roles were clear. You did not debate them. You did not take turns. You just did them. He mowed the yard with the Craftsman reel mower, $12.95 from the Sears Roebuck catalog. He changed the oil in the Ford on Saturday morning. He fixed the screen door hinge in October. He shoveled the walk before dawn when the street was still dark and the porch light was the only thing burning. She ran the household like a dispatcher. Meals planned and cooked, laundry folded, children dressed and delivered. The checkbook balanced at the kitchen table after they went to bed. Church functions organized, school conferences attended, dishes washed in the porcelain sink with ivory flakes at 4 cents a box. The Maytag wringer washer running in the basement every Monday. Ironing board out every Tuesday. Was it equal by the standards people use today? No. Was it clear? Completely. Every person in the house knew exactly what the other was responsible for. There was no meeting about it, no negotiation. The arrangement was settled the day they moved in, and it held. The beauty of it was not fairness. It was certainty. Nobody woke up wondering whose turn it was. Nobody kept a running tally of who did more last week. The garbage went out because it was his job. The children had clean clothes because it was her job. There was no scoreboard hanging in the hallway. There was no resentment building because nobody had to ask. Asking is where the poison starts. When you have to remind someone of their role, the role has already failed. In those houses, it never failed. It ran like a clock that had been wound once and never stopped. The only real betrayal was when someone stopped holding up their end, not the division itself, the failure to do what you were supposed to do. That was what broke the deal. Resentment did not come from the roles. Resentment came decades later when the roles vanished and nothing replaced them. He knew what she carried. She knew what he carried. At the end of every day, they sat in the same room and neither one owed the other an explanation. The house ran because two people ran it, not because they discussed running it, because they ran it. But even in the most orderly house, things went sideways. Money ran short. Words came out wrong. Somebody crossed a line that should not have been crossed. And the question that decided whether the marriage would survive was never about what happened. It was always about what happened the next morning. Number 3, you forgave without being asked and without making a scene. When something went wrong, and things went wrong regularly, you did not convene a hearing. You did not demand a formal apology. You let it go. Quietly. He came home 2 hours late on a Friday night. She had kept his plate in the oven, covered with aluminum foil. She set it on the table when he came through the door. She did not ask where he had been. He sat down. He ate. By the next morning, everything was fine. Not because they had talked it through, but because she had decided to let it pass. And he knew she had decided, and that was enough. She burned through the grocery money on a winter coat at J.C. Penney's. $14.95. A full week of roast beef and milk and bread gone in one afternoon. He noticed. He said nothing. She wore the coat to church on Sunday. He held the door for her. There was no word for what they were doing. They did not call it grace. They did not call it emotional intelligence. They called it getting on with it. Forgiveness. In that house was not a conversation. It was a plate kept warm in the oven. A door held open on a cold Sunday morning. The bedroom light switched off at night without a single word between them. The couples who lasted 50 years were not better at talking things out. They were better at letting things go. That is not a weakness. It is a skill this country has nearly forgotten. Today, people rehearse their grievances. They write them down. They bring them to a professional and pay $150 an hour to read them aloud in a room with a box of tissues on the end table. They keep receipts. They time-stamp every wound. They build a case like a lawyer preparing for trial. And then they wonder why the other person feels like an opponent instead of a partner. You cannot litigate your way into a peaceful home. You can only forgive your way there. And forgiveness is faster when it does not require a speech. But forgiveness only works if you show up the next morning and the morning after that and every morning for the rest of your life. The hardest agreement on this list has nothing to do with what you felt. It has everything to do with what you did when you felt nothing at all. Number 2. You showed up every single morning whether you felt like it or not. Marriage was not an emotion. It was a post you were assigned to. You reported for duty every morning, and you did not walk off because the work was hard or the days ran together. 5:30. The West Clock's Big Ben alarm clock on the nightstand, $3.50 from the hardware store on Main Street. His feet hit the cold floor first, her feet right after. Coffee percolating on the stove in the Corning ware pot, the smell of Maxwell House filling the kitchen before the sun cleared the rooftops. The linoleum cold under bare feet, the window above the sink still dark. A dog barking somewhere 3 houses down. There were mornings they did not like each other, whole weeks sometimes, maybe longer. But the coffee was still made. The lunch pail was still packed and set by the door. The children were still dressed and walked to the bus. The furnace was still checked before anyone else in the house was awake. The car was still scraped clean of ice while the sky was still black, his breath hanging in the air under the carport, her shadow moving behind the kitchen curtain. In 1950, 65% of American women were married. That was not 65% of women waking up every day filled with joy. That was 65% of women who got up and did it anyway. And the men beside them did the exact same thing. Marriage was not the feeling you had about the other person on any given Tuesday morning. Marriage was the list of things you did regardless of the feeling. The coffee poured, the shirt pressed, the driveway shoveled, the screen fixed without being asked. Today, people will tell you that if you have to force it, then something is wrong. In 1950, the belief was the opposite. If you have to force it, you are doing it right, because nothing worth keeping survives on the days you feel like giving it. It only survives on the days you do not. Duty is not a word people use anymore. It sounds stiff. It sounds cold. But duty is the reason the light stayed on and the children had two parents at the breakfast table every single morning. That is not cold. That is the steadiest kind of love a person can give. 6 agreements and not one of them has mentioned the word love. Not once. No talk of communication. No vulnerability. No being emotionally present or holding space. Every relationship expert on television today would say this list is missing something critical. But these 6 agreements built marriages that lasted 40, 50, 60 years. Not every year inside them was happy. But the structure held, and the children who grew up in those houses knew exactly what a kept promise looked like. They watched it happen every morning before school. The country that was built on those kept promises has spent the last 50 years searching for a replacement. It has not found one. There is one agreement left, the most important one, the one that would sound like heresy to almost anyone under 40. And it is the reason every other agreement on this list held together. Number 1, you did not marry for love. You married, and then you built it. Love was not the foundation. Love was what grew in the walls after you built them with your own hands. You did not wait until you felt ready. You chose someone. And then you became ready together. A Saturday morning at the Methodist Church. The minister's fee, $5. Her dress sewn by her mother on a Singer treadle machine over 3 evenings at the kitchen table. His suit was the same dark one he wore to work on Monday. A sheet cake on a folding table in the church basement. Punch from a glass bowl. The car borrowed from his brother for the afternoon. The entire wedding cost about $250. Today, the average American wedding costs over $30,000. Brides now spend more on the dress alone than that entire ceremony cost in 1950. In the 50s, the average first marriage happened around age 20 for women and 23 for men. By today's standards, they were still children. They did not know each other the way couples now believe they need to. They knew enough. They knew the other person was decent, was willing, and would not quit. That was enough to begin. They moved into an 800-square-foot house on a GI Bill mortgage. Monthly payment, $56. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a Formica counter in the kitchen, and a window above the sink that looked out at the yard. They had almost nothing. And over the next 40 years, they built everything. A family, a savings account at the local bank, a vegetable garden along the back fence, tomato stakes driven into the dirt every May, green beans growing along a wire trellis he built from scrap lumber. A name that meant something on the block. Board by board, year by year, season after season. And somewhere in the quiet middle of all that building, love arrived. Not the kind from the movies, not the kind that announces itself, the kind that comes from carrying the same weight in the same direction for so long that you cannot picture your life beside anyone else. Ask a woman who married in 1952 when she fell in love with her husband. She will not point to the altar. She will point to a Tuesday night in 1961 when he came home and rebuilt the porch railing without anyone asking him to, or the night their first son was born and he held her hand in the hallway of the county hospital and would not let go. Or an afternoon in 1974 when she found him sitting alone in the car in the driveway. Engine off, just sitting there. She brought him a cup of coffee. He took it. Neither of them said a word. She knew right then. That was the moment. Not the wedding, not the courtship. That quiet, ordinary afternoon in the driveway with 2 cups of coffee and nothing left to prove. Love was not the price of admission. It was the thing you earned by staying, by building, by honoring every silent agreement on this list for years without any guarantee it would pay off. And then one morning you woke up next to the person beside you and realized you could not live without them. The feeling had not been there at the start. You had built it with your own hands. Nobody sold it to you. Nobody prescribed it. It grew in the quiet. It grew because you never left. Somewhere tonight, in a house that has been paid off for 30 years, a man sits in a recliner he has owned since 1987. His wife is beside him in her chair, turning the pages of a magazine. Neither one has spoken in 20 minutes. The television may or may not be on. The kitchen is clean. The porch light is on. The same curtains she hung in 1991 still frame the front window. Their grandchildren's drawings are held to the refrigerator with magnets from places they visited together decades ago. Gatlinburg, Branson, Myrtle Beach. A clock ticks on the wall above the hallway. The furnace clicks on, and the house settles around them the way it has every winter for half a century. He reaches over without looking and rests his hand on the arm of her chair. She does not look up from the page. Her hand moves over and covers his. They have been married 53 years, and neither one of them would trade that silence for anything in the world. And if you want more forgotten wisdom from the generations who came before us, the next video is waiting for you right now.